What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Jets Roundtable. We got a lot to talk about here on today's show. It is the heart of the offseason. Free agency begins next week. There's a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation. Where are the Jets going in free agency? They're linked to this guy. They're linked to that guy. This rumor, that rumor. We have the Buffalo Bills to talk about because they are releasing their entire team. And there's a lot of other stuff I want to break down on today's live show. As you all know, we're live every single Thursday, 1 p.m. EST with the boys that you see on screen right here. My name is Richie, and we're excited to continue this Jets Roundtable. Let's go around the panel. Ryan, how you feeling today, my man?
I'm feeling all right. I'm getting excited for this free agency craziness that's going to happen in just like 5 days' time. It's been a long time coming. Football's back, baby.
Football is fine. It feels like football's back, even though it's not back, technically. It feels like this is where we can really, pump our chest and say, yeah, we're Jets fans. We win the offseason. At least this time it's going to translate to the field, though, I promise. Matt, how you feeling today, man?
I was just going to say the 10-time defending offseason champion New York Jets, baby. Let's go. How are you up for some free agency and NFL draft talk? Let's do it.
I mean, that's the energy we need. Can you match that, Jake?
I'm ready, man. I was in Indy last week at the Combine, and just kind of being immersed in a football environment like that for 5 days was an absolute blast. So bring on free agency, man. Jets got some Woody Johnson cash to spend, and I can't wait to watch it unfold.
We do got some Woody Johnson cash that the Jets are going to be very, very open to spending. Guys, if you're just tuning in, please do us a favor. Simply hit that like button on your way into the show. It's a great way you guys can support the channel. We got a lot to talk about when it comes to the AFC East Roundtable in general, right? There's a lot of topics around the division. I also want to get into the Bills and the Dolphins and even the Patriots besides just the New York Jets. We got a lot of people tuning in on Twitter right now and on YouTube. So welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get straight into business. Before we go into the Jets talk, because there's a lot of Jets things that we'll be breaking down, I kind of want to start off actually with the Buffalo Bills because I feel like they're a very trending topic within the division right now because I like to call it a reshape, right? I feel like the Buffalo Bills that we all known, at least for like the last 5 to 7 years, are all getting released. Jordan Poyer's getting released, restructure this guy. I mean, they were like $40 million under the cap, so they had to make a lot of moves to free up some cap space. Ryan, what's your thoughts right now of how the Buffalo Bills are kind of retooling their cap situation to get prepared to maybe make some additions because they are in cap hell and now they're trying to get themselves out of it? Do you think this is a smart move by them, getting rid of a key piece of their secondary, Jordan Poyer, and a lot of other guys as well?
They have to. This is the red wedding of football moves right now. You're $40 million over the salary cap. You got to get underneath it in a hard cap sport. You better get good at drafting players because Josh Allen's contract's going through the roof, and this is going to shift the power within the AFC East. I feel like with the Dolphins hemorrhaging some players and the Bills hemorrhaging like half their entire team, I think it's setting up really nicely for the Jets and a rebound season from the Patriots.
How about you, Matt? How do you feel about these Buffalo Bills reshaping everything?
Yeah, they're going to look a little bit different, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It feels like that's where a lot of the changes have come from. So we're going to see how good of a GM and head coach they have as they transition now a little bit. There, when you have a player like Josh Allen at quarterback, you're always going to be in the mix, but it's going to depend on what the rest of the roster ends up looking like. And who knows, maybe they take a little bit of a step back this year because of it.
Maybe they will. How about you, Jake? What are you feeling about these Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, you kind of knew this was coming, right? When you mentioned their cap situation, Dolphins have to make some similar moves as well, and they're going to have to probably give Tua a huge extension just to save money on their cap. And I think if they extend Tua and pay him like he's a top 10 quarterback in the league, it's going to end up being a poor contract because I just don't view him like I do some other elite quarterbacks in the league. But when it comes to the Bills, it kind of feels like their window, it's not shut because when you have Josh Allen, you're always in the mix. But the roster they're going to field this year, in theory, is not going to be as good as some of the teams they put out the last couple of years, and they're yet to reach that Super Bowl. They've only been to that one AFC title game, and it feels like perhaps they've already hit their ceiling with this current group. So I'm not saying they're a bad team next year. You want to make them the favorites in the East. That's fair. They've won the division 4 straight years, but I think the rest of the AFC East is coming back to the Jets. And the biggest question with the Jets is Aaron Rodgers' health, but we could say the same thing about Tua at this time a year ago, and he actually made it through a full season. So, health aside, I think this AFC East is right there up for grabs for any team, probably besides New England, because they're going to have a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots are going to be a very interesting team to follow this offseason because they're entering a brand new reshape in terms of like a different reshape where they're retooling, they're rebuilding, everything's going to be brought down, and they have a lot of cap space. But the Bills are a very interesting team because, I don't know, it feels like their window was these past few years. Like, is their window closed because Josh Allen's cap hit is about to hit? The only reason why I say that is because they don't have a lot of wiggle room to add more talent. So, like, what's the room for the Bills to kind of improve and get better next year, just from a personnel standpoint, Ryan? How is that possible for them?
It's draft better. That's what it is. You got to hit when you have a high priced quarterback, and right now you still have a high priced wide receiver in Stefon Diggs, and you're stuck with Von Miller for another year at least. I think you just have to hit on your draft picks. You got to hit on undrafted free agents. You got to hit in the second, third tier of free agency, like we've seen Douglas attempt to do. I think that's the formula, right? Like that's what we're expecting to do eventually. Only the opposite. We're going to have a bunch of high-priced players in a few years, and then we're going to have to go the route of the rookie quarterback. But it's a cyclical thing that winds up happening, and the GM's just got to hit on his picks.
So is this the year? I mean, we said it last year, right? But and the Bills still were able to win the division. Well, let me just remind the people that the Dolphins were in first place for the majority of that time there. But is this the year that the Jets can actually go out there and win the division? I know we have to see what we do in the offseason. We're going to break it down. But is this the year where the Bills kind of feel a little bit more vulnerable than usual, Matt?
I mean, yes, I do. I do think that. I think they take a step back. But I think you can make a case for 3 teams in the AFC East to fall somewhere between 9 and 11 wins. Like, I don't think someone runs away with this division and is like 13-4 and just like the best team in the league. But I do think that the Jets, Dolphins, and Bills are all going to be somewhere, from just above 500 to 11 wins. And, it's going to be one of those divisions where these teams beat up on each other a little bit. And, like I said, absolutely Buffalo's taking a step back, but they have a phenomenal quarterback. So they're going to be in the mix. It's just going to be a matter of how far he can take them. But I think they're going to have to go with the youth here. They're going to have to draft really well this year if they want to stay relevant. And, they deserve the credit now because they've won it so many times in a row that they're going to be the favorites, as they should be. But I don't think it's a lock that they're the division winner next year.
Jake, what do the Jets need to do not only to make the playoffs, but to win the AFC East, right? I feel like we should just hope to be a wild card team, but how do you feel like the Jets stack up within their division? How they stack up against the Bills and what you're seeing from the Dolphins so far this offseason, like you brought up the Tua situation. Like, how do you think the Jets stack up against this division with a healthy Aaron Rodgers next year?
That's the biggest thing, because if Aaron's healthy, you're talking about a team that won 7 games with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, and Trevor Siemian. Like, the Jets have issues. We question the offensive coaching staff, no doubt, but they still won 7 games. They still bring back basically their entire defense. We'll see what happens with Bryce Huff, but still, they have a loaded defense. Aaron Rodgers talked about this during a recent podcast appearance. So you have, assuming they bring back their kicker and punter, an elite top 5 special teams unit. So they just need to go from 32nd offensively to, can they be an average offense? And when you have Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, not a bad starting point. Now you factor in probably 2 new starters in free agency along the O-line, a tackle at pick 10 that starts for you, and you add a receiver, probably 1 in free agency, maybe 1 with that 3rd round pick and a loaded receiver class. You're right there. So, like, this division's not great. Like, the best path for the Jets to go on a run, I think, is to win the AFC East, get a home playoff game, and get yourself in the tournament that way. I think the division is coming back to them. They play the Bills well. They have beaten Buffalo with Zach Wilson at quarterback the last 2 years. Miami, you could say what you want about them. They've beaten the Jets up the last couple seasons, but really, 2 years ago, the Jets beat them with Wilson. That last game was Flacco 2 seasons ago. And this past year, it was non-competitive with Tim Boyle and Zach Wilson. So I don't know how much stock we put into those games. Miami went 1-5 against teams with a winning record. So, the Jets got to get Rodgers healthy. That's by far the biggest thing. But assuming that and some additions to the offensive side of the ball, we're talking about a 7-win team that can't be any worse offensively. It's impossible. So I do think there's a path for them to actually win the division. I don't think it's crazy at all.
Well, I definitely want to get your guys' thoughts of the odds of who will win the AFC East, because the proud sponsor of this show right here and the proud sponsor of Roundtable Sports is BetUS Sportsbook. If you guys want to sign up and open your account for BetUS Sportsbook, simply click the link that's pinned down below in the description, and you will get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,500 with 10% gamblers insurance. Now, I'm really curious to get your guys' thoughts of these odds, because I find them pretty interesting. The New York Jets are at plus 285 on BetUS to win the AFC East. They have the 3rd best likely odds. Basically, this is how the AFC East finished last year, with the Bills at first, Dolphins second, Jets. So what do you guys feel like about these odds?
Yeah, I feel like you got to feel confident in the Jets, money line at this point, just based on what the other teams are having to do. Bills losing a bunch of players, Dolphins losing a bunch of players, Jets are getting the biggest player back that could improve their team. If you bet anyone other than the Jets, I think it's almost a foolish bet.
Ooh, wow, you said that with your chest out.
Oh,
Matt,
yeah.
are you that confident?
I don't know if I'm that confident. I just want to pull up the old betting odds calculator. So a plus 285 gives an implied chance of 26% chance the Jets win the division. I think that's probably pretty fair. Like, if you wanted to do a pie chart, actually, no, I might go a little bit higher than that, but really it could be between any of these 3 teams, and no one's like an odds-on favorite. Like the Bills at plus 130, I think is only they're the highest at 43% chance of winning the division. So it's really not that big of a variance. Which is kind of like I said, what I expected, because I think it could be any of these 3 at the end of the day that could win the division.
Jake, do you think these odds are going to shift after the offseason's wrapped up? Like when the NFL draft is done and we're in May, do you think these odds are going to be similar, or do you think that the offseason moves is going to kind of sway the odds a different direction?
Yeah, I think if you'd like the Jets to win the division, I'd bet it now, because I do think after they add a couple notable linemen, maybe add a receiver or 2, they're going to be they're going to have higher odds. The Jets are going to be a dark horse, pick to win the division, because there's just not going to be as much hype around them this year. It's impossible to replicate what occurred last summer with Hard Knocks and just the drama that occurred just to get the Rodgers trade finalized in the first place. So I do think there's value there, because think about it. Like, why would you bet on the Bills or the Dolphins at those prices? There's really not great value there, but you put $100 to win $285 on the Jets. Like, there are worse bets you could make there. There's no doubt. Plus, maybe if you make that bet now and it hits, your playoff ticket's covered for maybe the wild card round, so you're good to go.
That's true. I will admit, your boy might have put some money last year on the Jets to do some things in terms of future bets. And will I be doing it again? Yeah, because it's going to happen eventually, and I want to be able to say I cashed out when it happened. So definitely feel like these odds at plus 285, this is the best odds you'll get. So definitely go out there and click the link down below in the description, folks, and sign up for BetUS. We're going to hear a quick word from BetUS.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Where the game begins. Shout out to BetUS, baby. Now, we have some other things I do want to talk about with you guys. Now, there was a new thumbnail on this show that got a little viral. Okay, it went a little viral across the Jets ethers. Matt wasn't a fan of it. Jake wasn't a fan of it. So we changed it a little bit. I don't know if there's that much of a difference, Jake. But what's your thoughts? What's your reaction to the thumbnail from today that I tagged you in?
Well, I'm not joining the band Kiss, and I don't have a black eye, and I didn't get a bad spray tan. So I feel like this graphic, whoever made it, did me quite dirty. That's how I feel.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Like, I
So-
know I got a face for radio, but we don't need to really make it worse. Like, come on now.
You do got a face for radio. I mean, that is true. I mean, you're killing it over there on ESPN. Why don't you tell the people what you do on ESPN? Because I feel like there's some people here, Jake, that don't know what you do. And I feel like you're killing it over there, and you deserve to let them know.
I appreciate it. Well, I'd love to tell you like what I do, but it changes really based on the week because I don't have a set schedule. So I work part-time for 98.7 ESPN New York, ESPN's national network, which is based out of Bristol, but it's on local affiliates throughout the country. And then I do some work now on Mad Dog Sports Radio on Sirius XM. So it's so weird. I've been a radio guy my whole life, and I was doing the Jet YouTube stuff as like a side hustle. And then last August, I left ESPN Houston. Jet YouTube became my full-time gig, and I've added 3 radio jobs as part-time gigs. So kind of reverse. But love what I do, man. But the YouTube show is by far and away the most fun, and doing stuff like this is just the best part of kind of building up the following so we can all collab together.
Absolutely. I love it. Now, I do want to show you guys the thumbnail we were talking about. Okay, so this was, I believe, oh no, that's the updated version. Don't look at it.
Oh,
Jake.
nice. Oh, that wasn't bad. All right.
Wait, but we want to see what it looked like before. We need it before and after. We need it before and after. I have so many different freaking thumbnails up. I don't know what's the old one or what's the. Let me see.
Well, StreamYard making you make everything a PDF first doesn't help. Oh God.
So I think that's what it originally was. I believe.
Can we pull
and
up
then we
Puka
updated
Lake's
it a little bit.
comment still? I don't know if it's still in the queue.
Oh my gosh.
It was
and
so
then
good.
we changed it for all of us. It's a little better, cleaner.
Nice.
Okay.
A little. I don't know if we're live, so give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, Jake. Is this do you approve this better than the other one?
Yeah, I mean, this one looks more normal. Like, it looks like a normal, like, AI style filter rather than, like, here's Jake Asman and Gene Simmons hanging out.
Yeah, your eyes definitely look better. I feel like I look a little blotchy, like red and spotty.
Well,
I guess
green.
I'm kind of red anyway. I'm kind of pink.
We're a MetLife. I don't know what color I am. Well, that's the thumbnail. I hope you guys enjoyed the new thumbnail.
Richie's got
fun.
some liver failure going on or something.
Yeah, man. I mean, first I screwed over Ryan with his picture on our first thumbnail, and then now I tried to upgrade it, and now I'm getting backlash. But I'm learning. I'm learning, man. I'm learning. But let's move on and let's hear from a proud sponsor of the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers. He is the guy for the Jets this season. You guys thought we were getting another sponsor? Don't worry, baby. That's all done. Aaron Rodgers spoke on a podcast, and I feel like every time he speaks, at least I like to listen to what he has to say. He's very intelligent, even though some people question his intelligence, which I find absolutely hilarious. That's the one thing you can't, whatever, we're not going down that path. But Aaron Rodgers spoke, and he had a lot of interesting things to say about what he likes about the Jets this upcoming season, what we can expect from him. And let's hear from the man, the myth, the legend, Aaron Rodgers, and react.
What was so disheartening and heartbreaking about last year was the work that I put in at 39 to put myself in a position to be able to play the whole season. I mean, I grinded. I came back, as fit as I've been in a long time, and hired a chef who helped me, with my diet and constant body work and stuff, just to be able to get through the season, and then to fucking play 4 plays was really, really tough, especially with all the excitement around us with Hard Knocks and new team and we were playing on 9/11. It was just a beautiful, beautiful night before that. So I gotta stay healthy. Beat back Father Time a few more years. But I like our chances. I like our guys. I like our coaching staff. We just got to put it all together. We got a fan base that's super, super hungry and desperate for wins, and I think we got the right guys. We got a good group of really talented young guys. We have the rookies of the year from a couple years ago, and Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, top corner and top receiver. We got a couple guys behind him. We're also incredible rookies and coming off great second years. Jermaine Johnson had a big year for us as defensive end, and Breece Hall, our starting running back, who had a phenomenal year. Catching the ball, had 600 yards receiving, I think, and had a ton of yards rushing for us, and he's a game breaker. So we got to shore up the offensive line a little bit to add a couple guys there, maybe get another receiver. But I like our chances, and I feel like if I'm out there, we always got a chance.
Yeah.
I feel like when I'm out there, we always got a chance. I mean, could you possibly say something cooler to finish off what he just said? Ryan, what was your thoughts and reactions to what Aaron had to say? Really, I feel like he sounds like someone just said this in the chat. He sounds like one of us. I feel like I just heard a Jets YouTuber talk, but it's our
Yeah, it's definitely a competitive mindset, like a competitor's mindset. Like I know doing sports all through, growing up and everything, it was always like anytime you set foot on the field or on a court or, whatever you were doing, you just sort of had this intrinsic, notion in the back of your head. Like if I'm out there, we got a shot. And Rodgers is the shot of all shots. I mean, this guy's an all-time great at the position, and the Jets had, legit special teams, legit defense. If this guy's just average, like we're talking like bare bones average, like top 20, and we're probably making some noise in the NFL next year. So I love hearing it. I love him having the guys' backs with Jermaine and Brees and Garrett and Sauce. I thought that was really nice. I like the part where he talks about Morstead and Zerline as well, bringing those guys back. They're weapons. It's how I viewed him as well. I mean, 60-yard kick from Zerline is absolutely elite, and 3 safeties because of Morstead punting teams inside the 3-yard line. That is absolutely a weapon. I mean, that's almost more points than Zach Wilson scored for us on the whole season. So I love this. Love it.
Matt, what was your reaction here with what Aaron had to say there?
Yeah, I love it. I think that he was spot on. He at one point talks about like he did sound like us because he's like, we need another receiver and to revamp this offensive line. Yeah, exactly, Aaron. Yes, please. Make sure you text Joe Douglas that every single morning when you wake up. I thought it was a really good interview, and he sounds like someone who's really, really motivated. I thought last year we were going to get the Aaron Rodgers revenge tour, but I think it's just been delayed a year, and he's going to come back with something to prove.
I like that. It's a little delayed, but that means it's still coming. Jake, what was your reaction to hear what Aaron had to say?
Yeah, I loved it too. I mean, just the chip on his shoulder, if it was possible for it to be even greater, I mean, it's there. And that was a really good just general podcast appearance that he just did with Cam Hanes, who I knew nothing about, but he was a really good interviewer. So I definitely recommend Jet fans to check it out. It fires you up because, as bad as this past year was, like they still are operating from a 7-win floor the last 2 years. Like it just speaks to the talent on this team. We know how bad the quarterback situation was, but like, does anyone really think Aaron Rodgers is not going to be good at football if he's healthy next year? Like, maybe he's not an MVP, but we really think he's going to be like not a top 10 quarterback in the league. I don't. I think he's going to be better than that. And I just think he's coming in so incredibly motivated that I'm expecting a huge season from him. And you look at the AFC right now. You have the Chiefs and everybody else in my mind. It's a year-to-year league, other than Kansas City, and why not if Aaron Rodgers is healthy? That's the biggest thing. Right? Everyone's going to say, oh, he's got to be healthy. Yeah, a year ago, every Dolphin fan had to hear if Tua's going to be healthy, and he was. So you keep the quarterback healthy, get a better backup if Aaron does have to miss, let's say, 3 or 4 games, which could happen, and you're in a much better spot to at least be a playoff team next year, and you get into the tournament, you have a shot when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Could not agree more. I got into a heated debate with Mr. TD Finstock on our daily show about Tua versus Aaron Rodgers. And if you missed it, I'm going to play the clip and get your guys' thoughts. We got into a debate between Tua and Rodgers. And the question was, if you're a team in the NFL and you want to go all in to win it all this upcoming year, which quarterback would you rather have? If you're literally a quarterback away, say you're the Chiefs and you want to go back to back to back, but Mahomes, I don't know, got hurt, whatever the case may be, hypothetical, they need either Tua or Rodgers. Which one are you choosing? And we got into a heated debate. So I want to get your guys' reaction of what the debate was. And anybody in the chat, let us know as well what you think about what we got into here.
I can't hear this.
It sounds like there's some passion, but I can't actually hear the passion. It looks like there's some passion.
There's a lot of passion here, okay? So we got to figure out how... Hold on. Can you hear it now?
No.
Wow, it's just going through your speakers.
Technical difficulties, Richie.
There should be an audio pass-through toggle, I think.
Yeah, there is, usually.
Did you upload it directly to StreamYard?
Yeah. I did not. That's what I should do. You're right. All right. We got it right here. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Oh, it's all good.
But the reality is, me and TD have been going after each other, and it's driving me nuts. People are saying, Richie, you're allowing TD to get to you too much. And maybe he does get to me, but it's because the guy says these things that are just so astronomically false. that I can't believe what comes out of his mouth. So I'm the one that I'm not going to allow the nonsense to spew. You feel me? So that's why I feel like it's my obligation as a Jets fan to represent us, to not allow the nonsense to be spewed everywhere. Okay? So that's what really heats all these debates, and we get into it and then there's another debate we got into that's not even related to this, that is about the Jets defense versus the Dolphins defense. And this guy had very interesting things to say about that. So now I'm trying to find
well, I'll give you my thoughts real quick on, I guess, like the Tua versus Rodgers thing. I think it almost depends on what team you put them on. Like Rodgers, if he has to run around behind maybe a more porous offensive line that doesn't have the weapons, if you think Mahomes was the reason they went over the top, maybe, neither quarterback does a great job on the Chiefs. But if let's say you had, the Jets or the Dolphins, either one, I'm taking Rodgers over Tua because of the weapons that are available to him, how quick he can get the ball out, just like Tua. It's hard for me to not pick Rodgers unless there's maybe a little bit more holes on the offensive line. And Tua's not even like necessarily a mobile, like running style quarterback or anything like that, but it just feels like he's going to be a little more mobile than Rodgers is at this point of his career.
I mean, I agree, Ryan. And it doesn't make sense to me because some people would not agree with you there. But hey, it is what it is. Let's see if I can figure this out now this time. Jake, what's your reaction to it before we play the clip?
I mean, if I have one game to win, I'm taking Rodgers 1,000 out of 1,000 times over Tua, and I think everyone besides a Dolphin fan probably would agree. I mean, like Tua is bad against good teams. The stats are obvious. They went 1-5 against teams with a winning record. And honestly, you tell me that the Jets are able to go out there and just have like a C+ level offensive line. Like I'll take my chances just from like a roster standpoint. Jets versus Dolphins. I think the Dolphins have the edge at head coach, which is significant. I don't want to minimize that, but I think Aaron Rodgers makes up for a lot of the issues that the Jets had this past year. I mean, they were 32nd on offense. They still won 7 games. Does anyone think they're going to be that bad on offense again if Aaron Rodgers, let's say, plays 14 of 17 games, and their backups Minshew or Brissett or Tyrod, they're going to be in a much better spot to be able to compete with any team in their division, not just the Dolphins.
Couldn't agree more. Glad we're all on the same page. All right, let's see if you can hear this now.
If I went around the NFL and talked to every NFL fan, I said, if you had to replace whichever quarterback you have and you want to go win a Super Bowl, would you roll the dice with Aaron Rodgers or Tua Tagovailoa?
Aaron Rodgers is not better than Tua Tagovailoa today.
Yes, he is.
Stop.
What?
Stop. We're not talking about career.
We're talking about this upcoming season. What are you talking about? Who would you rather have, the starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills replacing Josh Allen if he had to get traded? Dan,
it's over.
I'd say Aaron Rodgers.
Stop.
One has the actual Super Bowl experience. One actually has proven to be an MVP 4 times. What has Tua proven? Tua has never even won a playoff game in his life. What are we even talking about here?
You don't even know what Aaron Rodgers is going to be after this injury. Let's get something straight here. Aaron Rodgers last season in Green Bay, he was a bum. And then he got hurt this year. He old.
How old are you?
39. I get injured every day.
I went around the NFL and talked to every...
Oh, man. That was my favorite part, the end of it.
TD comparing himself to a 4-time MVP quarterback is amazing.
Oh, my God. It doesn't end with me and him, man. We go at each other. But Matt, what was your reaction to that whole debate?
I think you held your own very well. It's a good thing you do yoga and meditate because I think you would pop off even more if you didn't. If I was on that show, I think I probably would have given myself some coronary. Something's going wrong with me if I'm on that show. I'm yelling, screaming, I blow the top of my head off. You get mad once every 3 months, it feels like. But
oh my God,
I don't know how you deal with it.
That's hilarious, Matt, because the video that I always come back to is TD laughing at me when Rodgers was on the floor when he was hurt.
Yeah, I saw that one. You tweeted that out recently. Listen, I don't know TD personally. He seems like a great guy from I like his content. He's very entertaining, but I don't think I would have handled myself as well as you did in that situation. I'm going to be honest.
Oh man,
I would have walked cool.
It's not easy. Honestly, not easy. But I will say, I would love to get you guys on there just to see how Ryan has been, but I want to see Jake. I want to see Matt deal with what we have to deal with these damn delusional division rivals. Hey, maybe I'm delusional too, but that's part of the whole thing, right? That's part of the whole thing. And that's why we have people in the chat right now that are gigantic Dolphins and Bills fans watching what we have to say as Jets fans. That's the beautiful thing about what we're doing here at Roundtable Sports. The next debate that we got into was about the Jets and Dolphins defense, but stay tuned for that. Now, let's get into more Jets free agency stuff and what is coming up this next week, because there's a lot. There's a lot to break down. But before we do that, we got a super chat from Mr. Mike D. My favorite Jets guys in one place. Love this. Mike D, thank you so much for the very kind super chat, my friend.
Legend.
Love you, Mike D. What a legend.
Mike D. Delivering the D.
Oh, yeah, baby. Pause. Mike D, thank you for the $10 super chat, my man. Really do appreciate you. Really do appreciate it. Now, we had some news. You know, there was one free agent that a lot of Jets fans wanted to bring in, and that was Mike Evans. He extends with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think we all know that the Jets, I mean, it was kind of unrealistic just from the standpoint of like, that's the big fish if the Jets really want to go all in. It was kind of like a dream, if you will, when we saw the report, oh, Mike Evans going to test free agency. He's going to hit the open market. Maybe the Jets have a chance. Right. He's re-signed. Okay. That lasted. I mean, I put all this time into a jersey swap for him on the Jets just for him to be extended with the Bucs the next day. I was like, okay, thanks, Diana Rossini. You're the best. But now that Mike Evans is off the market, let's stick with the wide receivers. Ryan, there's a lot of reports, whether it's Kendrick Bourne, Tyler Boyd. There's been some speculation about Calvin Ridley, Brandon Ayuk even. Where do you see the Jets going? Because it's no secret we are landing a wide receiver this offseason, but the question is, who is it going to be?
Yeah,
Courtland Sutton as well. Can't forget him because that's your guy.
I was going to say Courtland Sutton's where I would like to go personally. And if you could work out some type of trade to get Garrett Bowles in it as well, solve your left tackle and your wide receiver 2 in one shot, that's the route I would want to go. Outside of that, if you're looking at free agency, we're hearing a lot of rumors of Deontay Johnson getting traded from Pittsburgh. I think Tyler Boyd's more than likely going to end up back in Pittsburgh. Not back in Pittsburgh, but he's from Pittsburgh and he wants to play for Mike Tomlin. So I think that's probably where I see him going. I still want a big-bodied wide receiver, someone that can be a contested catch guy, someone that can be in the red zone. You know, maybe that's a Mike Williams coming off an ACL injury from the Chargers after he gets cut. I think that could be an option. Kendrick Bourne is fine for me. He's kind of like a wide receiver 3, so I'm still going to have to devote some, asset relatively high to feel more comfortable. I'd almost feel better going with like a slot wide receiver, like a Curtis Samuel, and then maybe moving up from our 3rd round pick to go a little bit higher to get the guy you want that fills out the wide receiver room a little bit better at that point in time, assuming, Sutton's not an option I don't know. I would say Sutton's my favorite option to go with. And then after that, you're probably looking at like a Mike Evans or a Curtis Samuel at that point for me.
They go Mike Williams?
Oh, yeah. What did I say?
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans. Yeah, no.
There's
Mike
so
Williams.
many names. And that's why I want to talk about this. It's like every name out there that is potentially going to go to a new team at the wide receiver position, the Jets are linked to, because there's no secret they want to go all in for that specific position. We even heard from Aaron Rodgers himself. So, Matt, perfect world, out of all the guys that's available and the most realistic, who do you think the Jets are going to bring in?
Honestly, I think a trade is probably the most realistic path, because you look at the wide receiver market, they're probably going to be the best one is Calvin Ridley. And I think because he's going to be the best of the best, they are going to pay him a lot of money. Whoever gets him is going to pay him close to $20 million a year. And I don't know if the Jets are going to win that bidding war, but trading a day 3 pick for a little bit more of a controllable asset, right? Like Courtland Sutton's a great example that Ryan brought up, so I'm going to use that one. The Jets, since 2 of their more recent best seasons, they traded a 5th round pick for an established wide receiver. They did it with Brandon Marshall in 2015, and in 2010 they did it with Santonio Holmes. So I think I would be looking at the trade market to try to fill the wide receiver spot, because if you don't land a top of the market guy like Calvin Ridley, it drops off pretty quickly. And my fear is that they're going to be okay with running back like sign Odell Beckham, because they wanted him badly last year, and run out like Odell, Allen Lazard, and Garrett Wilson, which I think would be pretty underwhelming if that's your trio.
That would be Jake.
Jonnu Smith to the Dolphins.
Officially?
Yeah, 1 year, or 2 years, $10 million.
Ah, we're screwed. Oh, damn it.
Fold the franchise.
Jake, the Dolphins just got Jonnu Smith, man. What is your reaction?
What did he do last year? I feel like I don't even know his stat line. Like, did he do anything?
He fits in perfectly. You want to know why with the Dolphins? Because he's a yak machine, and that's the Tua merchant right there. I'm going to give a little 7-yard slant, and he's going to go 60 yards, and I'm going to get credit for all the yards.
He had 50 catches, 582 yards last year in 17 games. I mean, he was productive last year. It's not a bad. What are the details of the contract? Like a 1-year deal?
I think
2-year
it's 2
deal,
years,
$10 million.
The one thing I remember about Jonnu Smith is like he was the guy that was taking all of the targets and yards away from
Kyle
Pitts. Yeah, and everyone's like, why is Jonnu Smith getting the ball, not Kyle Pitts? All fantasy managers were livid. So honestly, all joking aside, I actually think that's a good move for the Dolphins because their tight end position is their weakest, I would say, out of their offense. So good move. We'll see. And I know some people get confused. How is this guy getting signed right now? Free agency doesn't begin. If you get released, like Jonnu Smith did, I believe, then you're available to sign before free agency begins officially, the legal tampering period, which is Monday.
Yeah, the reasoning for that is the league year starts, so the contracts expire on Wednesday. But if you were released, your contract is already up and available to be signed. That's the
Ryan,
short end.
you gotta get hired by the NFL or something. Like you just know.
I know
so
my
much.
numbers.
You know your numbers. Is there what department would that be? Like in the NFL? Like is there like a department? I'm not even just like from an organizational standpoint. I'm speaking just pure NFL.
I don't know.
Compliance.
Curious if there is.
Accounting or something.
Yeah.
You know the rules, man. You should be on the next CBA negotiations.
Dude,
Yeah,
I've
that's
been
what you should do.
they're talking about 18 game seasons now. I've been pounding the table for 2 bye weeks for the longest time. And then you can have a 10-day, gap going into a Thursday night game instead of playing on a short week's rest and, with 4 days. Every team, coming off a bye should be able to do a Thursday night game as opposed to short week. Hire me.
I'm in. Ryan for commissioner. Sorry, Roger Goodell. Ryan for
Take his salary. I'll split it amongst all of us.
Let's go. We're getting paid, baby. All right, let's get back into it. Jake, I don't think we got your thoughts about the wide receivers yet, right? Where do you see the Jets going at that specific spot?
Yeah, I love the Cortland Sutton trade idea because that big body style receiver is exactly what they need. So I'm certainly on board with that. I think they'll make a run at Ridley. It just, there's going to be a really competitive market for him. Like, a lot of teams will look at Ridley as like, we need to sign a 1 because we don't have one. So he'll be that guy. And the Jets are probably going to be in on him, but they also know they have a 1 in Garrett Wilson. And, we don't think Lazard's any good, but they're still paying him a decent chunk of change. And they're going to probably operate under the premise he'll do something with Rodgers back next year. So I think the Jets will be in on Ridley, but they'll have a price, which is why if it's not Sutton, is there another trade guy that we're not thinking of? Like every year, there's always a receiver or 2 that gets dealt that no one sees coming. I don't know who that player is just yet, but that's where like Joe Douglas has to get creative. Like McCagnon got Brandon Marshall for a 5th. Tannenbaum not even just traded for Holmes, but he also got Braylon Edwards. Like the Jets in their history when they've been good, it's because they have been able to like not just build their team through draft or free agency. They've also been able to swing a trade. Obviously, Rodgers is part of that as a trade, but I think from like a skill position standpoint, that's something to watch for sure.
I feel like Chris Godwin maybe.
That's a good one.
That's one I like. Deontay Johnson's been tossed around. Tyler Lockett maybe. Mike Williams or Keenan Allen, just because of the salary cap space. I think Allen stays there though. I think Williams probably gets cut.
There's so many, like the thing I look at it is you got to expect the unexpected. Like there's definitely a name that not one person's talking about that's going to be a Jet. And like, I feel like every year I'm trying to figure it out. Who's it going to be? And then sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. But that's not the only position the Jets are going to be pursuing. There's a lot of other holes that they need to fill, mostly on the offensive end. But guys, we have 228 total people watching live on YouTube and 684 people watching live. We have 415 people on Twitter somehow. I don't know how that's possible, but shout out to all you guys watching on Twitter right now. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button. Let's get well over 100 likes, 79 likes. with 226 live watchers. If you're enjoying the Jets Roundtable, we're live here on the AFC East Roundtable YouTube channel every single Thursday at 1 p.m. EST with Jake Asman, Matt O'Leary, Ryan, and myself. Would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the AFC East Roundtable, but also please subscribe to all 4 of our YouTube channels. That is linked down below in the description. We all cover the New York Jets all the time. Now, talking about some other holes, the offensive line is the, biggest one. But before we go there, I want to talk about the cuts that the Jets have made. Laken Tomlinson was first. CJ Uzomah was second. I think those are 2 names that if you did a mock offseason for the Jets, you made those moves. It was very expected. But the big question is there an unexpected release coming? I don't really see that. Ryan, is there anybody on the Jets that you feel like could be an unexpected release that we haven't seen yet? Or do you think the Jets are done in terms of releases?
It's not a real big one. Maybe Bawden, at some point. I would prefer to have Jeremy Ruckert in that role, honestly, and not, waste the roster spot on a fullback. But I don't think there's anyone else that I'm really looking at on the team that would make sense. Like maybe a trade, like if you wanted to trade JFM away to make room for like a Bryce Huff contract or something. But that's the only thing I could really maybe see.
Yeah, I mean, there was this Dolphins beat reporter, and I tweeted this out to troll and went viral on Dolphins Twitter, that they were linking the CJ Mosley to be a Dolphin. I'm like, where's that coming from?
That's
like, the Dolphins should get CJ Mosley. I'm like, how are you getting CJ? Like, the Jets are in cap hell. If they cut him, they'll get this amount of money. I'm like, CJ's going absolutely nowhere. And then TD, of course, is pushing that narrative and telling me, like, watch out, the Jets are going to cut him. Like,
I spoke to CJ Mosley personally 3 weeks ago. He will be on the Jets in 2024. How do I know that? He told me. So there you go.
Per sources, Jake.
Per source, Mosley's on the Jets. Now, they could restructure his deal or extend him to lower his cap number, but he's on the team. They're not getting rid of him. They love him.
And that just goes to show you how down bad these Miami Dolphins are, especially on the defensive side of the ball, bro.
Look, when you haven't won a playoff game since before Breece Hall was born, I get it. As bad as the Jets have been, think about this for a stat. They've won 6 playoff games since the last time Miami won a single playoff game. Think about that. And the Jets haven't made the playoffs since 2010. That's how pathetic the Dolphin franchise has been.
That is interesting.
Crazy.
Sorry, Dolphins fans. Truth hurts sometimes. Oh, gosh. But, Matt, we saw all these moves. We saw the Jets free up some cap space. And now we talked about the offensive line last week in terms of where they can go. But now we have the free agency right around the corner. What are some free agent offensive linemen you think the Jets are going to target? Is David Bakhtiari a realistic option? Because, of course, his name has been linked to the Jets since Aaron Rodgers walked in the building even last year. Tyron Smith as veterans. Like, where do you think the Jets go from an offensive line standpoint in free agency next week?
I hope they lose David Bakhtiari's number because the guy can't stay healthy. So it's been a very long time since he's played a significant amount of games. So I'm out on Bakhtiari. I think they're going to make a run on Tyron Smith, but I think he probably ends up a Chief. Mike Onwenu is a guy that I would really like because he could play right tackle or right guard. I think they'll be active in the interior market as well, depending on where they want Joe Tippmann to play. Like, I don't think it's a guarantee that Joe Tippmann will play center. I could see them wanting a veteran center and having Tippmann out at guard. So I think Onwenu, because of his flexibility, is one of my favorite options. And then on the interior offensive line, Graham Glasgow, Tyler Biadasz, the center from the Cowboys. The Titans have a center who is a free agent. Brewer, I think it's Andrew Brewer, something Brewer.
I think it's Aaron.
Aaron Brewer. I knew it was an A. I was close. That one would be very Jets because I have some beef with that idea. If you'll let me for a second here, he's been pretty horrible his career except for last year, and last year was the only year he didn't have Keith Carter as his offensive line coach. So signing the guy who had one good year in his career away from the offensive line coach that you currently have seems like a really bad idea. So I think that's the one that's going to happen, and it's going to bother me.
Well, I can't wait to see that if that happens, your reaction. Hopefully it doesn't for your sake, Matt. Now, there was another report that the Jets may be adding a veteran running back, which is, if you look at the roster, we technically don't have a running back next to Breece Hall. I love Izzy. I think that he has a lot of upside, but it seems like the Jets are interested in bringing in a veteran. Now, there are some guys in free agency that I think we got to look at. We're we're not going to be looking at the top tier guys like a Saquon or a Josh Jacobs or any of those guys, in my opinion. But the next tier of guys that are like A.J. Dillon, of course, a former Packer, Zach Moss, potentially. I don't know their market, but Jake, is there a veteran running back that you would like the Jets bring in, or do you feel like they shouldn't even get a veteran running back and you get one through the draft? Like, how do you think the Jets should fill out that running back 2 spot?
I think they should be patient because there's just so many running backs available that I think the market is not going to be very strong. I think there's going to be a lot of guys just waiting around, kind of like last year when you saw Zeke and Dalvin Cook and a couple other guys just be sitting around, didn't really have jobs. I think it's going to be a depreciated market again. Some really good running backs, man. If the Jets can get an RB2 for $5 million or less, they could end up with a really quality player. Like Devin Singletary signed with the Texans last year for $2.5 million. He was their best running back. He had some really big games for them once they gave him the starting spot over Dameon Pierce. Like, that's the type of guy I'd be looking at. Who's the veteran RB2 you could bring in for $5 million or less? You're not doing the Dalvin Cook thing all over again, of course. And then I think you want to see what Izzy Abanikanda could do from year 1 to year 2 if he can make a jump. I liked him as a prospect. We barely saw him. So I think if your running back room is a combination of one free agent signing, Brees, Izzy, and maybe a day 3 pick because you just take a stab at someone like good teams do because you can find value there, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I like that as well. I think the running back position is very interesting. Now, going to another position group on the offense, the tight end, we get rid of CJ Uzama, which we all wanted to. But now the question is, are the Jets content with the tight end room, or are they going to add another player, whether in free agency or even the draft? Because Tyler Conklin is entering his final year, I believe, with the New York Jets currently. Jeremy Ruckert is entering year number 3. And then we got Zach Kuntz. And then Kenny Yeboah, I believe, is a restricted free agent. So, Ryan, what's your thoughts of the current tight end room? Do you think that the Jets are going to bring in more depth there? Because right now it's Conklin and Ruckert as the go-to guys.
So I think it's squarely in the conversation. I don't think it's going to be a free agent acquisition. I think the only tight end that might come in would be a Brock Bowers at number 10. And that's purely because we had Michael Mayer high on our list at number 15 overall. The Jets reportedly wanted to go up and get Jahmyr Gibbs. So they're clearly looking for some type of home run threat there. And to me, when I'm looking at the weapons that might be available at 10, I don't think the 3 receivers are going to be there. Bowers provides you a home run threat, just like Garrett does in the wide receiver room and Brees does in the running back room. The tight end room would be that sort of situation. And then maybe you move, Ruckert as like that H-back type role that Quincy Enunwa used to play. That would be.
So let me ask you one question about Brock Bowers. What do the Jets have to do on the offensive line to justify taking a tight end? Because obviously we're all thinking the same thing, offensive tackle in the first round. Like, what does this team need to do in order to make us feel confident and comfortable drafting a non-offensive lineman in the draft in the first round?
Yeah, I think it depends on how free agency shakes out and how they view AVT. If you want AVT as a guard, you're probably not taking a weapon at number 10. If you want AVT as your tackle and, you want to go the weapon route, by all means, I'm cool with that idea too. I do want AVT at guard because I like the break glass in case of emergency route, that AVT is a tackle in an emergency situation, not that he's like penciled in as a starter from the start. So maybe the Jets go after like, I don't know. It depends when Bakhtiari gets signed too. Because if he's coming into New York, is he coming in immediately as a free agent, or is he coming in when he can clear his medicals? Because that may not be for a little bit, and maybe that is after the draft. Because then maybe you go after someone like a Jonah Williams who could play left or right, and then you pencil in AVT as your right-hand tackle for now. And then if Alt falls to you, then you got AVT at guard, Alt at left tackle, Jonah Williams at right tackle. If you want to go with the weapon, then you bring in a Bakhtiari who's going to be your left tackle. You have Jonah Williams as your right tackle, AVT as your guard. If Bakhtiari goes down, you have Carter Warren. If he's not going to be ready, then you got AVT as the break glass in case of emergency type pick. So I think you have to AVT plays a large, portion of what goes on, and then the flexibility of whatever tackle we bring in.
Yeah, I mean, the options that the Jets have are absolutely endless. Absolutely endless. We got a super chat from the man, the myth, the legend.
My co-host.
We know him very well. Ryan's co-host, Talking Jets, featured on the Jake Asman show recently. Mr. Dom C. Thank you so much for the $10, Dom. We appreciate it. Boys, about the trade for wide receiver idea, how about kicking around Debo again? San Francisco wants to lock up Ayuk and don't have a lot of cap room. His contract is pricey, but maybe you use that to lessen the cost. Matt, would you be open to renegotiate the whole Debo to the Jets rumors? Dom C seems to be interested.
I would have to look at the contract. I don't remember what his contract is off the top of
I got it. I could tell you it if you want.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, are you kidding? Ryan is the guy.
He probably has it off the top of his head.
I was about to say, it's in his
not off
brain
the top
too.
of my
It's not
head,
even.
but-
It's,
I have it pulled up
capologist.
here. So the Jets would have, let me just see one little option. So it's a base of like 22 million with, I can't tell if one portion, they like split up the signing bonus a little differently than they normally do. So it's either 22 plus an additional 1.8, or it's just the 22 million for 2024. And then next year would be about 18 million or 20 million, depending on that little prorated bonus that actually it looks like an option bonus that was paid out last year. So it looks like it's probably 22 million for this year and like 18 for next year.
It's not terrible.
And he's 28 this upcoming season.
Yeah,
he's like he doesn't even like feel like a wide receiver to me. He feels like a weapon, you know?
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, he's not a prototypical wide receiver, but would he be a useful piece in this offense? Yes. I wonder, what do you think the cost would be for Debo Samuel? Because you'd have to, acquiring that contract isn't necessarily like, it's almost like they would be dumping a contract. So I don't think he would be crazy costly.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it a conditional pick next year based on performance? Like that might be the best. The Niners don't need a pick this year. They've got their first, their second, and then they have 2 picks in every round from the 3rd round through the 7th. So like they may be willing to take a 2025 second round conditional pick that could, go up to a second rounder or something like that with production.
Definitely
It's
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Dom, thanks for bringing up this hypothetical because Debo was linked to the Jets, and maybe that could be the guy we're all thinking about or not thinking about that could be a Jet. Now, I do want to get your guys' thoughts that I feel like it just popped in my head that no one's even thinking about, neither myself, because when we think of the Jets' offseason plans, it's all offense, offense, offense. Is there a chance that the Jets get aggressive and make a big addition to the defense to even make the defense like level up? Because the one position I'm looking at is the safety room, because Jordan Whitehead's a free agent, Ashton Davis is a free agent, even Clark, who didn't play last year, is a free agent. Right now, it's just Tony Adams. So, like, you see Poyer got released. I think Justin Simmons is available. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe it's not the safety room. Byard, like, could there be a low-key, like, splash on defense that no one's seeing coming with the hypothetical Bryce Huff walks? We don't pay him, so the Jets kind of want to keep some cap space available to make a splash and make the Jets defense level up. Is that a possibility that we should actually think about, Ryan?
I don't know if I'd say a splash on the defensive side. Maybe a situational pass rusher like Leonard Floyd or what the hell's his name? Or is that right? That is right. And then there's I think Fletcher Cox maybe. I think it's more likely the Jets bring back Foley Fatukasi at this point on a pretty low cost deal. I like the idea of going with a safety. It just depends on how much we're going to spend on it, because the Jets historically have not spent high on safety. Like our biggest investments were a 3rd round pick in Ashton Davis and a franchise tag on Marcus May. Other than that, we haven't really invested a lot in it. So yeah, I would say maybe a situational pass rusher to replace a loss in Huff, and then, a defensive tackle. Yeah.
Cause like, obviously if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. The defense is fine. We're also potentially having, Bryce Huff walk, and I don't know. I'm just thinking, Jake, do you see a potential like move that no one's seeing coming on defense? Or you think we're good on defense? Let's put all our assets on offense, because that's obviously where the issue is.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's going to be offensive concentrated, but they do have to figure out what safeties they're bringing back. Are they going to bring Davis back? Are they going to maybe bring back Whitehead? So that has to be figured out. And if you don't bring them back, you got to replace them, because you just don't have the safeties on the roster right now. So that's definitely something to explore. I mean, Jordan Poyer and Aaron Rodgers have a friendship, so maybe something to watch there. He's a big time ayahuasca. Yeah, he's an ayahuasca enthusiast as well. So that by the way, how funny would that be if Poyer joins the Jets defense after what's his name on that podcast, shirtless? Deion Dawkins is ripping the Jets. The irony there would be hilarious. But I could see them maybe looking at the safety market, because the value similar to running back seems to be depreciating. Now, they're not bringing Jamal Adams back, but, I'll tell you what, there's some intriguing names to potentially look at there that the Jets can make a move on. I mean, they did sign Jordan Whitehead in free agency, so that like Douglas has shown if he likes a player at the right value, he'll invest in that position. So I could see it. I definitely think, though, I mean, the needs on defense are self-explanatory. If they let Huff walk, they need to probably bring in another pass rusher on a one-year style deal, and then they're going to need to figure out who's replacing Al Woods because he's not going to be ready for the season. He's a free agent anyway, and he might retire because he's old. So that's definitely a need as well.
I kind of like the Poyer idea. I don't know if that's just me. Matt, yes or no on Jordan Poyer?
Depends on the cost. I would say like intrigued for Jordan Poyer. I'm not a guy who was really looking to spend big money on safety, but he's someone who, I mean, he's a little bit older. He's kind of made his money already. So I don't know how
like a 1 year cheap.
Yeah. Right. Like if it's a 1 year deal at, I don't know, we'll pick a number, $8 million, maybe. Right. I don't want to be in like the paying of $15+ million for a safety. I don't think the Jets need to do that. I don't think they're bringing Jordan Whitehead back. I don't know. He won't stop tweeting. I don't know if you guys have seen Jordan
He's
Whitehead.
marketing himself.
He does not like when you bring up the missed tackles. He's going to tweet every tackle he's made in the NFL, I think, by the time he actually gets signed.
He might strangle Michael Nadia, too, I heard, per source.
Oh, yeah. He's going to have to get in line behind Boy Green because there's a long wait list for Michael Nadia. So, but I think they're going to go relatively cheap on the defensive side and like just bringing back their own guys and trying to retain as much of this unit as they possibly can.
Yeah, I think the only way Poyer happens is if it's, a team-friendly deal. Obviously, the Jets don't want to spend a lot of money, but hey, the idea of having one ayahuasca enthusiast on one side of the ball and another ayahuasca enthusiast on the other side of the ball, I mean, let's get all the boys to Peru or something, and we'll see what happens. But I think that Jordan Poyer, I just like the idea because it's just another win-now move where, like, Jordan Poyer is going somewhere where he feels like we can actually win something special. And I feel like at this stage of Poyer's career, he wants to go somewhere that is potentially going to be competitive. But we shall see. Definitely an interesting conversation to have. We got some more super chats to get through, and then we'll wrap things up. Red John with the $5. I'm in on Bakhtiari. Didn't he get everything squared away with his injury shoulder situation? I think he's medium risk but super high reward. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the only thing that is scary and the red flag for him is the injuries. I mean, the guy I don't think has finished a full season in I don't know how long. Like, I would like him, but you look at the Jets' offensive line's issues last year, I feel like a big narrative that people forget about, there's a reason why the Jets' offensive line was so bad. It's because the injuries had a big reason for it. It's not like we were healthy and we sucked. We were hurt and we sucked. So we're trying to fix the offensive line. Getting an injury-prone player doesn't really make me feel comfortable. So the only way you can sign me up with Bakhtiari is if you have an insurance policy behind him where I'm like, yeah, if he goes down, I got confidence in the next man up because I can't with a straight face say, yeah, I believe Bakhtiari's playing all 17 games.
So one thing to think about is our coaching staff came from a team that took a risk on an often injured left tackle and traded for that player, and he is now arguably the number one offensive tackle in the league in Trent Williams. So I think it is entirely possible that the Jets roll the dice on a red flag type tackle to get the potential benefit. That's kind of why I want AVT as the emergency tackle more so.
It feels like a Mekhi Becton draft pick, right? When we drafted him, we all said the same thing: boom or bust. Like, if Mekhi
but you know
booms,
Bakhtiari is a hit as long as he's healthy. That's the thing. And
That's
if you believe the reports that this was the surgery that's going to clear it up, he was elite in the games he's played since then. I mean, it was fluid on his knee this past year, and the year before that, I believe was it an ankle, a high ankle sprain or something like that? It was like something that wasn't like crazy, if I'm not mistaken.
And he's like Aaron Rodgers' best friend. I mean, you talk about Randall Cobb, like it's Bakhtiari. He gets tagged in every single story on Instagram that he's not even a part of, so it's hilarious. Last few super chats. Anyway, Joe D finds a way to recoup a second-round pick so we could take the best offensive playmaker round 1 and a good offensive lineman round 2. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that Joe Douglas and his team is, going over every single scenario. The fact that we don't have a second-round pick, I'm sure, is in the back of Joe Douglas's mind and maybe getting creative in a way to recoup that draft pick. I definitely think that's a possibility. Jake, do you like the idea of JD trading down in the first round? I feel like we haven't seen him do that yet. We've seen him trade up.
Yeah, we've never seen him trade down in round 1. I think in an ideal world, that's what they would do and still come away with one of these tackles. That being said, if they love someone that's there at 10, they're not messing around in an all-in year, because I've been told the Jets feel like they could get a starting level player with their third-round pick at 72, and they're also probably going to be willing to maybe use their 2 4s in a deal to move back up. So I could see the Jets saying, hey, maybe we make our trade later on in the draft, whereas they just stay at 10, pick the best tackle, call it a day. That being said, if you tell me they trade back a few spots, still get a tackle, and get a second-round pick because the team's desperate for maybe one of these quarterbacks, awesome. But I think, gun to my head, they're just going to stay at 10 and make a pick.
Interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different opportunities that Joe Douglas will do. We've never seen him trade back yet, so it'll be a new thing. Henny, trade for Sutton, then draft the tackle at 10. Yep, that is definitely a possibility. I can definitely see that. Thank you for the $2. Henny, of course, always. Dom C's back. Yes, Richie. Value for safety depleted. Contracts will be cheap. Sign one of these guys who got cut so they won't count against the comp pick equation. Yeah, I mean, and then Xavier comes out here. Justin Simmons is a free agent. So, that's a splash. You want to talk about a veteran that will take a cheap one-year deal, try to go for all now. I mean, imagine Justin Simmons and Sauce and DJ and Tony Adams and Michael Carter II. That is an improved secondary, and I didn't think that was possible. But how good the secondary was. So, I don't know. It really just comes down to the finances. But if we can bring in a guy like Simmons or Poyer on the cheap, I think that is an absolute thing that the Jets should consider. And then the final super chat is from Mike D again. Sold on Ryan's trade idea for Sutton, an offensive line guy. Makes too much sense. Could go best player available in the draft. Everyone is on board with Ryan GM.
And Garrett Bowles, the left tackle for the Broncos, likes Nathaniel Hackett. There's an interview out there of him glowing over him.
Is he a free agent?
He's not. He's got 1 year left, but it would be a $16 million cap savings. So if he were to get traded, it would save the $16 million off their cap, and then you'd probably restructure him for a 2 or 3 year deal, dropping that cap hit from 16 down to $7-8 million or something like that.
So it could be potentially a trade for Sutton and him.
I would do that, and I would trade 10 for 12. I'd slide back to get those two.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. All right, Joe Douglas, we gave you some ideas. Which one you'll take, which won't you? Well, that's going to wrap up the Jets Roundtable, folks. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way out and subscribe to all the YouTube channels. That's down below in the description. We appreciate each and every one of you guys. Next week's going to be wild. It's going to be free agency recap because at that time, the Jets will be making moves, and we're going to be breaking down all the moves that happened and really go deeper into it. So thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out, everybody.